Value Stack podcast is now sponsored by Coinbase.com. If you need extra one-on-one time to get your Bitcoin questions answered, book a call with a Bitcoin pro at Coinbase Connect to get expertise you need with topics ranging from security, privacy, mining, Lightning Network, and more. It's easy to get started. Simply go to Coinbase.com, click Connect at the top of the page, and book a call with the pro for the topic that you'd like to discuss. So thank you guys at Coinbase for sponsoring this show, and check them out at Coinbase.com to get the Bitcoin support you need. Now, on with the show.
This is episode 8, the Ocho. BTC back. How are you doing today?
Dude, we good, man. It's Friday today. We're recording live from two different places, as we usually do. It's been, I think, about almost 3 weeks since we recorded our last episode. Excited to be back. You know, we've got big news in adoption. Not so much excitement in the price, but I think it was higher last time we were together. But certainly have some exciting things to talk about with you all. And you know, the weather's getting nice too, so maybe we'll talk about the fall.
I love the cooler weather.
It's the best.
Yeah, I wonder. It seems like the cadence of our recording coincides with the price of Bitcoin. I wonder if Bitcoin goes on an ascension to 100,000, 200,000. Are we going to have a podcast out like every 2 or 3 days?
Maybe. Maybe. No, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's really up right now. I mean, it's like, I think it's up today. It was down yesterday quite a bit. So we were planning on recording for those in doubt. We were planning on recording today already. So the up price today was just a coincidence.
Yeah, I'm mostly kidding about that, but as some
what,
of our listeners know, we were despondent there at one point.
You were. I was good.
Well, let's hop into it.
Dude, I want to know what's you've been in Taos for a bit. I saw that you did your last night. You guys had the second Taos Bitcoin meetup. How did that go?
It was great. We got our first guest. The first meetup was just my girlfriend Christina and I. Yeah. Yesterday, my girlfriend couldn't make it, but Ray filled the hole, and Ray's a cool guy. We've got a great start. It's funny. I've mentioned to you offline that there's a real estate company here in Taos, and their front door is just a huge Bitcoin logo.
The Bitcoin side. I know you sent me a picture of it when you saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you figured out that if you go to taosbitcoin.com, it takes you to Martin, the real estate guy.
Is that the
Zillow
same
page?
Same
dude. So yeah, I called him yesterday and I was like, hey, come have a beer. Let's talk about Bitcoin. And he's like, tonight's not going to work, but how about next week or the week after, or whatever? He's like, I know a lot of people in Taos that are buying Bitcoin. A lot of people.
Awesome.
And yeah, I was like, well, have you ever done anything with real estate in Bitcoin like yet? And he, super sharp dude, talks very quick. He explained like 4 different ways Bitcoin could kind of play into a transaction, but why it hasn't so far. But he did mention he is helping a couple from Washington State that have been mining Bitcoin since 2013. They're looking to buy here in town. They don't have a job. So he said that like in their case, like borrowing is an issue. So they're going to have to basically pay for a house in cash, and they're not willing to sell any of the Bitcoin. They've been mining for close to a decade, basically. So so it looks like they're going to take a pretty big loan against their Bitcoin to buy a house in cash. Yeah. But anyways, those people I'm sure will start coming to the Bitcoin meetup, and it sounds like Martin has some other folks here in town. So hopefully we get to northern New Mexico and a bona fide Bitcoin meetup here.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been following. The website looks good. Taos, what is the website?
It's taosbtc.com.
Oh, okay, because Taos Bitcoin is digging
Martin,
by my Martin.
freaking Martin.
Martin, props to you, Martin, on that. Well,
Yeah,
cool,
big
dude. Yeah,
shout out.
we had a Denver meetup on Tuesday, and it was the first one we've had in probably a month or so, and it was a good turnout. All things considered, it was especially cold on Tuesday. It was like 40 degrees, which is pretty cold for September, you know. And yeah, we're gonna be doing another one in a couple of weeks. Casa and Bitcoin Magazine will be doing doing one on the 14th of October. But yeah, dude, I'm good. Anyway, I'm good. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear somebody showed up and that it's growing. You know, it starts at 0 and it goes from there, dude. So good on you. Good on you for staying persistent on that. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I did. Got to.
Well,
Well,
should
let's
we get into some
let's hop into.
topics?
So current events. Let's start with Twitter's news. Twitter is implementing Lightning, and I think people in the know knew this was coming, but pretty exciting announcement.
Well, Jack hit it on it. Jack Dorsey hinted on it. Strike
On the B word.
API, yeah, yep. The Strike API is going to be huge. I think that's going to be in all kinds of different financial on ramps and rails. If you know, really excited to see. So for those of you who haven't heard the news yet, although I imagine everybody has, Twitter has implemented not just Bitcoin, but among others, Bitcoin Lightning and Bitcoin on-chain payments. They also have integrated Cash App, looks like PayPal, Venmo, many of these different APIs. But it was neat because this is like a very, you know, how would you say, like white, you know, big label launch for Bitcoin, for Strike, for Lightning, particularly.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's, I mean, I think you could argue it's kind of the first step in social media being able to get away from the ad-supported model. I know Jack Dorsey has talked about how he despises the ad-supported model, just creates perverse incentives and which content gets out there and, you know, gets paid for. So this is pretty cool. I think that Twitter's tested a lot of things recently, so I think they're just kind of in a wait and see mode, see how popular this is, how many people are tipping, and I know they're also doing a newsletter product in beta right now, so
yeah,
kind of going after Substack.
Yep, I actually migrated my Substack over to Review. It seems to be pretty legit, and it's featured in my Twitter profile. So I think I'll get more people to just like circumstantially wind up clicking on it. Yeah, Twitter's doing, and I wonder if you know, I imagine they'll integrate the Lightning into the newsletter, and all of that will be, you know, streamlined relatively shortly. And it was cool. They even had some parts about encouraging self custody, or at least teaching about it. I don't know if it really encouraged it, but good to see. Good to see. You know, there's some drawbacks. You receive it in dollars, so I'm not really sure how much I like that. Like if I'm sending somebody Bitcoin, I don't want them to receive dollars. They have to turn it into, like, they receive that amount of dollars in their Strike account, and I don't want them to receive that. I'll just send. I get it. I get it whether they launched it that way, but I want to send them Bitcoin.
Yeah. Hopefully soon they have the option at least.
Yeah, I don't know
Like,
why you can only, I don't know.
yeah, I think it'd almost be easier just to have sats to sats.
Right, because it's like if I'm sending sats and then they're converting it to dollars and then they're converting it back to, maybe that's why, because they're converting it to, but no, but they're sending sats, right? So I'm sending sats. If they can just receive sats, that seems easier. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's probably
that'll
something to do with, yeah. They
probably be the
just
next
launched the
feature.
Bitcoin wallet, so yeah, don't know. But
Well, we've
yeah,
talked about it on the podcast. Oh yeah.
it's funny that like we've got like on the one side of the world we're like, hey, launch an instant permissionless payments or relatively permissionless, and on the other side we got China um, banning Bitcoin for the millionth time again. On the same day, it's like we live in we're like living in two different worlds basically at this point. Um, the Western world is opening up. The Eastern world is increasing your social credit score restrictions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we should probably mention that. Like, I don't think this has any implications. It's already
No. No. I mean, it sounds like they're really cracking down on all the exchanges. So if you've been operating an exchange, like even though they've banned it now couple dozen times, it sounds like this time they're really gonna start to, have criminal prosecution of anyone who runs an
right.
exchange. So take it, I mean, whatever. But Bitcoin leaving China, I mean,
Good.
I know people have different opinions on Jason Lowry, the MIT Space Force guy who kind of took the Bitcoin world by storm recently, and I know he's
Yeah.
kind of polarizing figure, but I really do like the way he frames, having Bitcoin as a national security. Uh, it's it's like it's a defense mechanism in the 21st century, and China is basically putting down their defenses because they're trying to protect their central bank
What
global digital
what if
currency.
they're like Confucius and Buddha? And they're like, we put down the guns. We don't want to fight. We want to control our citizens with fucking social surveillance.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Confucius would do.
I don't think so either,
But
but
yeah, I mean, I don't even think they're. Let me ask you: do you think their central bank is stacking sats on the low low?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think China owns a shit ton of Bitcoin. Everybody
Okay.
does. Not everybody, like not like your cousin, but the 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 central banks of the world, particularly China, they have to own it. Even if they own it just through seizure, they own it.
Yeah. No. Right. Like, doesn't the CIA still own Ross Ulbricht's Bitcoin, something
I
like
don't
that?
know. Do they? I'm not sure.
I think so. I think you can find that on like large holders of Bitcoin, like the FBI or the CIA or something still holds the confiscated Bitcoin from the Silk
Maybe.
Road.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anyways,
Well, yeah. Well, speaking of U.S., right? The CIA, or not the CIA, the SEC. They're Gensler was out there. He was he's talking his talk, walking his walk. I think he's way more Coinbase is trying to launch that lending product. I think that he's he's certainly in my from my opinion more bullish on Bitcoin than crypto. Maybe he's not a
Yeah.
shitcoiner. That would be good.
Yeah, I don't think he's pro Bitcoin, and I think
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I
But
just think he's
I've seen him give talks at MIT about Bitcoin, or like at least like recordings, or I don't like. I've seen something about it.
yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely knows what he's talking about, and I think that's why he appears to be talking down crypto
Right.
and hasn't said anything negative about Bitcoin. And I think
He's
that's
in a
because he understands he can't do anything about it at the end of the day. Like,
right. He's in a unique position to where he actually could manipulate, move markets. Maybe it's not that he's worried about like legal implications, but just doing it,
yeah,
making it worse than it already is.
right. Brian Armstrong's kind of an idiot.
Dude, so
Like,
dumb. I'm never
he's
gonna get
pretty
hired by
dumb.
I'm never gonna get hired by Coinbase, so I can't say anything like too bad about him. But dude, he just doesn't want to. I mean, it like looked like it was like you could see the steam coming out his out his head, dude, from trying to mention he was on the Pomp podcast or the business show, best business show, which I love, by the way. Like it's a great. I watch it almost every morning. I don't even watch CNBC anymore. But Brian Armstrong, he was on there, and Pomp asked him about Bitcoin, and Pomp asked
And
about light and lightning, and Armstrong was like, I think crypto is going to be, and he's like, no.
yep,
So, but he did say, it's amazing what Bitcoin and lightning are doing, and like all of them. So he did say the word, but it looked like it was like going to make him explode. So I don't know, man. Coinbase, that
that
being said,
that
he
makes
said
no
he,
sense.
I
That makes
know.
no sense to me.
Well,
Like, what would Coinbase be without Bitcoin?
They'd be a shitcoin casino, which is exactly what they are. Like they aren't a Bitcoin company. Like they're a shitcoin casino. Now that doesn't mean that that company as an organization doesn't have venture investments and like irons in the fire in a myriad of other projects. But Coinbase, the exchange, makes money through exchanging fiat to Bitcoin, Bitcoin to fiat, and Bitcoin to crypto, and crypto to crypto. And like, so if you just buy Bitcoin with fiat one time and then withdraw it off their exchange, it's literally the worst thing you could ever do for their business model. So I think like, but at the same time, they own it. Coinbase owns Bitcoin. Brian Armstrong said he owned a bunch of Bitcoin. So, he's like, tries to be that agnostic. He's like, I think he said like, I don't really, I'm indifferent to who wins. And I'm just paraphrasing, but like, it's like, I'm indifferent to who wins. I think Bitcoin's got a chance. Like, no, dude.
What?
Yeah, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Um,
can't. Coinbase is like not the company for me, even though I might be working for them someday. So I will probably eat those words and we'll delete this episode if I ever get hired by them. But until then, and it's like, it's fine too. Like, I think they have a right to exist, and like they are doing what they are doing, and they're doing a great job at adopting to crypto, and like all shitcoin roads eventually lead to Bitcoin in my mind. So I think it's fine what they're doing, but I'd like to see them be just a little more like adamant about Bitcoin. There's just hate Bitcoin, it seems.
yeah, that does not make a lot of sense to me. But who am I? Um, so we didn't plan on talking about this, but did you by chance see that toxic Bitcoin maximalist debate with Udi Weidmer or whatever his name is? You know, Udiverse.
I didn't see
Okay.
it.
He went toe to toe on Twitter Spaces with a bunch of Bitcoin maximalists, like toxic Bitcoin maximalists, and I I couldn't stop listening because it was like watching a car crash. It was honestly some of the Bitcoin maximalists on there made themselves look like such fools. Like I was almost taking Udi's position on a lot of it. I think like fundamentally when you're talking about the coins and when I like talk about what Coinbase does, for instance, it's like they're idiots, they're oblivious, and like you said, they're an altcoin casino. But then when I hear the rhetoric out of toxic maximalist mouth, it makes me disgusted. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I really don't want to be toxic about it. It comes across as so narrow-minded
What
and
did they do that was so toxic? Like like I didn't listen to it, so like maybe our listeners haven't either. Like, can you give
yeah.
us like a 20-30 second summary of like what was so bad about their viewpoint that was so cringy?
Yeah, so just the way that they call everything a scam and like NFTs, I try not to be a 30-year-old boomer and I try to see the opposite side of things
But
of
we
why
are.
yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is it's one of the
Okay,
stupidest
boomer.
bubbles. It's one of the stupidest bubbles we've ever seen. Now that said, something is going to come out of it. Like I do think there's something to Web 3.0, and ultimately, when we start getting real value on, I don't want to say immutable blockchains because that would be Bitcoin, but if we start to get some real value on legitimate blockchains, like there is an actual use case outside of the killer app, which is money and Bitcoin. So, anyways, they're debating NFTs back and forth, and Udi was basically saying, "I don't, I don't think they're great or anything. I own some though. Like I'm just trying to figure out what's going on in the space, and I'm trying to have an open mind. And I bought some, cheap NFTs and whatever. And the hate that came out of the Bitcoin maximalist mouths, just calling the whole space a scam, everyone who touches it a scam. If you even, say NFT, you're a scammer. They're all liars. And Udi was making the point. He's like, they're not all liars. Like, not everyone who's involved in
Mm-hmm.
NFTs is necessarily a scammer. And then I think what really made the Bitcoiners look bad is they were saying, well, we never call them scammers. We never said scammers. And then Udi started throwing up tweets that's just like NFTs are a scam. And it's just like, tweet after tweet of Bitcoin maximalists calling everyone a scammer. And they're sitting there saying, I never said anyone's a scammer. And it was just like, I don't know. It was like, there's one thing like defending Bitcoin's protocol and defending the block size and all that kind of stuff. But it's another thing when you can't even accept that blockchains are used for anything else.
Well, they're not a really good invention for much else
No,
because it makes such trade-offs to achieve decentralization. So,
agreed.
a Bitcoin maximalist would know that.
Right.
I don't really see the value of a governance token, but I do see the value of digital ownership, and maybe if we live in like digital realms, then ownership in that realm may become more important than ownership in this physical realm. So I don't completely write them off, but I'm not interested. And the opportunity costs and the risks aren't worth
Oh,
it to me.
I would never, ever um, spend a single sat on anything, especially NFTs, which I find to be particularly uh, harebrained. But anyways, let's move on to a new
Well,
topic.
dude, when Evergrande is it's all fake, right? Like the money's fake. Everybody's defaulting, soft default, hard default. It's a contagion. It's not a contagion. It's all fine. I mean, you've got global debt. everybody knows the money printer just goes burr, burr, burr at this point.
Yeah,
Like I'm just kind of bored with it. It's like, give us another outcome. Like,
for anyone who hasn't seen what the fuck happened in 1971, Google WTF happened 1971, and I mean the story of the last 50 years has been kicking the can down the road and
right,
taking
right.
on more debt to deal with a debt problem, and we continue to do that, and we get these cracks for now and again. We had the global financial crisis. We had the illiquidity crunch during COVID. We have Evergrande now. Evergrande has $300 billion in debt that they're probably not going to be able to repay. Sounds like a big number. And I think you can argue that it's pretty much contained in China. So they're essentially planned economy and they're going to handle it, whatever. But how are they going to handle it? Money printer go burr. And, I'd say this is probably bigger, some of the best news for Bitcoin in the world today. And I don't think people are really putting that together. It's just another example of a debt implosion that is going to be dealt with more debt.
As is always. It's always the solution now. And a fiat system.
Since 1971, you can't print more gold.
Yeah, you can dig for it though.
You can dig for it. And
you know who else is digging for gold? Our boating accident of the week. All right, it's time for the boating accident of the week.
Boating accident of the week.
Dude, it hurts me to say who it is this time.
Another Bitcoiner placed on a pedestal and then
Mayor Francis Suarez, MiamiCoin? Come on, dude. I feel bad that I'm going to Miami for the conference. I'm like, it's just next Bitcoin 22 is just going to be, I'm excited for it. Like, I think it's going to be a good time. The conference is going to be well done, but I feel like everything surrounding the conference is going to be a big MiamiCoin plug. Come to MiamiCoin and like spend Miami. You heard him say it's 4 cents. He's like, oh, it's only 4 cents. Bitcoin's thousands of dollars, way more. He's like using unit bias. I'm like, dude.
disappointing.
I don't even want. I'm not buying MiamiCoin, and I'm not gonna live in Miami either. It's interesting how it's locked in the Stacks layer. I guess Stacks is like kind of a side chain of sorts. It's on the rootstock blockchain. You can mine at the same time. It's secured like at the same peg or something as Bitcoin. I got to learn more about it, but it is using Stacks, which is interesting, which is secured with Bitcoin. So maybe Mayor Suarez has a redeeming trait. But Mayor Suarez, quit the pump and dumps, dude. Just Bitcoin. MiamiCoin. Come on, dude.
He's going to go down as Value Stack episode 8's voting accident of the week. For that, he'll always be remembered.
MiamiCoin. I just wanted you to remember that this episode. MiamiCoin, dude. All right. So that's this week's Value Stack boating accident. What are we going to do for I think like in the last couple episodes, we've done like some actionable, like more like traditional finance segment. What are we doing for that? This we did like a behavioral finance one, then we did some like risk management tips. What are we doing this week?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm balls deep in the traditional finance world. I do that many hours of every day, and
Rip.
it's I live a double life of sorts because I hold these very strong beliefs about the the I don't know the global economy is in, as well as the solution being Bitcoin. But then I advise clients to do other things. And I listened to a podcast yesterday that I can't believe it. I can't believe it impacted me the way it did, because it was with Kevin O'Leary. And if anyone listened, Kevin O'Leary was on Peter McCormack's What Bitcoin Did podcast. And he was talking about, and he's an investor in Bitcoin, as well as other cryptocurrencies. And he was talking about how ESG is a major roadblock for Bitcoin adoption in the traditional finance institutional world.
What's ESG?
I'm sorry?
You said, okay, so you said ESG is a major roadblock for institutional adoption in the traditional world. What is ESG?
Environmental, social, and governance factors.
So this is like the companies that care about the world, and like, or something like that. Like, can you tell, like, just explain a little bit, like, what is that? Like,
basically,
what is an ESG?
They check boxes. They check boxes. They virtue signal.
Okay.
It's they put people on their board. They appoint basically over any investment committee at an institution today, whether it's a sovereign wealth fund, whether it's a hedge fund. On top of the investment committee, you're going to have basically an ESG committee, and a lot of people outsource that to BlackRock. BlackRock defines the environmental, social, and governance sort of define the spectrum of how you score.
Do they assign the rankings too?
I mean, effectively, they assign
the criteria.
They assign the criteria.
So they're like the S&P, the Moody's, but for ESG instead of insurance credit rating. BlackRock, in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, we all know how good centralized rating agencies do in general.
Centralization.
Anyways, so yeah, and I guess what I grapple with being in the Bitcoin and the traditional finance world is, part of me listens to what he was saying, and just gets angry and says, like, well, we don't need the institutions. Like, the whole point of Bitcoin is that this is like a grassroots technology that's going to replace the traditional finance world and all these virtue signaling talking heads that don't really think about, they think about making money, and that's about it. So, part of me says that, but then the other part of me looks at that and thinks, wow, he's got some really valid points. Like, if you're a fund that's focused on environmental, social, and governance scores, it is hard to buy Bitcoin. It really is hard to buy an asset that uses as much electricity each year as Sweden. Now, but before you interject, I just got to say, if you understand the value, if you really understand Bitcoin, then that's a small price to pay. It's a small price to pay. And, I think a point that Peter McCormack made, and that I was thinking in my head, was the social and governance. Like, they're thinking all about the environment and they're completely forgetting social and governance. And like, so much of the world's social and governance problems come because of the central banking
that's a good
apparatus
point.
we find ourselves living. So I think, Bitcoin scores extremely well in S&G, but in order to think that way, you have to really understand Bitcoin. And these people that sit on the investment committees of these institutions, they don't understand Bitcoin. They think cryptocurrency is an asset class. they hear that Ethereum uses as much electricity as, an electric vehicle after they move to proof of stake or whatever. I'm just making that up. I don't know. A lot more than an electric vehicle, but they're going to look at the space and they're going to say, until we can tell our shareholders and we can tell the rating agencies essentially, or BlackRock, that Bitcoin's doing something about the energy usage, it's against our mandate, and they had these mandates, and ultimately they're going to be wrong, and the ones that ditch their mandate last are going to lose the most. But I think he has a good point, at least in near-term adoption. If we're going to see, $1 million a coin in the next cycle, we're not going to do that without institutional money. I mean, there's a lot of plebs in the world that are stacking hard these days, but I think he makes a good point that in order to get really meaningful adoption, unfortunately, we're going to have to play their game. And you already hear Michael Saylor kind of doing this already. He's pandering to.
He's pandering, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think that you damn them all to hell. They're going to learn, get on board, or adopt or die. This whole pandering thing is part of the problem with our civilization. I think you absolutely nailed the SG part. It's not good in the E because we don't understand what the E even means. Like, I think we think that our use of energy is somehow a problem, when in fact use of energy is directly correlated to increasing standard of living. I'm serious. It's like, if you pay for the energy, it's no one's business to tell you what you use it for. I do think that you're right in that it doesn't fit the narrative well. I think that toxic Bitcoiners would say, F their narrative. Who cares? Don't cooperate. That's the problem. We're like, we have to modify our behavior just to fit these boxes. Like, what? That's why I asked that's not why I asked, but like, I asked to, like, in case listeners didn't know, but like, what is ESG? It's just like, it's just like you pander and fit these boxes with like, number of women, or like amount of carbon, or like number of non-white people on your board. Like, it's all these, like, dude, if I was like, to me, it's like, we're not going to get anywhere until we stop virtue signaling, because we are like, we're going to get canceled for this, but I don't care. Dude, when I met you, you were like much more virtue signaling than you are today. And like, we're friends because I think you appreciate that I am just like, I don't like beat around the bush with you. And like, to a degree, like you have like softened me, like not softened, but like, you've taught me things and like how to look at different perspectives too. Like, I grew up in the South, real opinionated and real stupid. And you grew up in California, like where everybody's super yuppie, liberal, open-minded. Right. And I think our first interaction, I was like, nice socks. And you're like, thank you. And I was like, wasn't a compliment. And you're like, I took it as one. and that's like, and I was like, oh, like, okay, like, but it's like that kind of like, I was being kind of closed-minded, and you challenged that, and it like made me kind of like, all right, like maybe the way I'm operating isn't necessarily like the best way. So like, I appreciate that, like, we as a species are constantly like challenging one another and pushing the envelope both on like what's acceptable and what's possible. I do appreciate that side of the ESG movement. But Bitcoin, I vehemently believe Bitcoin is good for the environment, because I have an understanding that we have, let me say this, it's good for humans. I don't know that it's necessarily good for the environment. I truly don't have enough background to be qualified to make a statement like that. But What I can say is that I do think that I know that energy consumption, I said this earlier, like energy consumption is directly correlated to increases in standard of living, and at least like preventable death, to some degree, like disease, malnourishment, etc. So to that degree, you should look for energy wherever there's more energy consumption. You probably have better quality of life. So if you're consuming a lot of energy and the energy is consumed to mine Bitcoin, that must be an indication that there's a great standard of living there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using it to mine Bitcoin. They'd be using it to power electricity to turn their lights on instead, or keep their freezers running or something. So it's a signification of excess capital. And it's excess capital that's not subsidized. It's actually bought and purchased. Now, maybe some places, I could say it's subsidized, I guess, maybe, but mostly that was in like China where there was free energy, and now China's banning it. So, all the miners I know pay for the electricity that they mine Bitcoin with. So, nothing's black and white, nothing's simple, but ultimately I think Bitcoin brings about an energy revolution due to necessity of invention. Because it's going to consume so much energy, and because it does bring about social and governance benefits, we're going to be forced to solve this E problem. But the E is also a feature, because that E part anchors what is a digital token in the physical world. And removing that removes that tether between the virtual world and the physical one. Because there's this problem where you can copy digital things over and over and over again with no energy. And the proof of work mechanism assures that that's not able to be done. So I think it's insulting to Satoshi that we are, still debating whether proof of work is bad. If you look up Kardashev civilizations, you'll learn that, for 50 plus years, scientists have been not only tracking increases of standard of living with energy consumption, but forecasting exponential growth in energy consumption with Bitcoin or without. So,
Yep. And I like Jeff Booth, the question he asks over and over to people in positions of power. Can we solve the whether you want to believe it's real or not, like the global warming issue in a necessarily inflationary environment, in a system where we need constant growth and rising prices of everything? In that system, is it even possible to tackle climate change? No. That's a really good question. It's a really, really good question.
I don't think it is, but maybe we'll save that answer we'll discuss that more on the next show.
Right. And Democrats, they would say, well, yeah, we can. Let's print $3.5 trillion for the Green New Deal. It's like, well, that's hurting the people you pretend to protect. I don't think that's making the problem any better. So, anyways, that's
there's a fundamental misunderstanding that money cannot be printed without repercussion. AOC made that pretty obvious on her Twitter.
Yeah,
like it's not just her. I'm not just picking on her. Like it's any.
There's a quote, I don't know by who, but I like it. It's like, if money printing was the answer, we would have discovered it thousands of years ago.
That's right.
That's right. Everyone who did discover money printing as a solution, well, they don't exist anymore. Anyways, we should probably wrap it up there.
Yeah, we're at the 45-minute mark. Tight. Well,
Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've got lots of cool things happening at the bottom of this link. There's all these like referrals for wallets or free Bitcoin to get meetings with Coinbase Pro, connect Bitcoin Pros, get rewards cards, all the good stuff. We launched another newsletter too, and you may have noticed that we've done a little bit of different editing here. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. This is episode 8 of Value Stack. Definitely leave a comment. We don't get enough feedback It's not because of the lack of listeners, because we've got both
Tons.
of our grandparents listening. So, but my grandparents died a while ago, so they're listening from a different dimension, which is
Yeah,
where this guy's parked, the Death Star, the Bitcoin Death Star. Well, you got any good plans for the weekend?
My girlfriend's best friend is in town, and so probably showing her around. I said that to a client today. I said, yeah, my girlfriend's best friend is in town. We're going to be showing her around. And she said, well, as soon as your girlfriend becomes your wife, when their best friend comes into town, that's when you say, honey, I'll get out of your way. I'm going golfing. I thought that was kind of funny. But
That's
no,
good life
just so
advice.
happens. Yeah, just so happens she's really cool. So we will probably go tubing down the Rio Grande, or I don't know, something
Oh,
outdoors.
damn, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
We
How
were
about
gonna
you?
go. I'm gonna edit this so we can get it out tomorrow, and then going to put some finishing touches on this presentation that we're doing in a couple weeks in Denver. Working on the weekend, but chilling. Probably enjoy some weather outside. Maybe sit in the hot tub, something like that. So, well,
Beautiful.
yep.
Well, cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you guys for listening. This is episode 8 of Value Stack. We'll catch you next time.
Yo, ciao.
Peace.